I've recently been reading two stories which have a common theme that I was not expecting at all. The first story is the Freerun manga, and the second story is Blindsight by Peter Watts. Freerun is a fantasy manga, now in anime, and Blindsight is a science fiction novel. And the idea that both of them came across is the idea that there are cognitive architectures which are fundamentally incompatible with humanity. There are certain kinds of alien minds that cannot be communicated with, even though they can speak something that sounds like language. Spoiler warning, this video contains spoilers for Freerun and Blindsight. In Freerun, there are magical creatures called demons. And demons are monsters that can use human language. But they don't use human language the way we do. The demons learned human language, first and foremost, for the purpose of deceiving humans. Then later on, they learned to use it to communicate among themselves. But because demons are predators that prey upon and literally eat human beings, the purpose of language is fundamentally to trick people. And because of this, they are lacking any sense of guilt, because a predator that felt guilt for eating people wouldn't be a very good predator. They lack any sense of justice. They lack any sense of, also, malice. A demon will say something like, "Don't hurt me, I have a son," without even knowing what a son is. All the demon understands is that if you say the words, "Don't hurt me, I have a son," human beings will often not hurt the demon. And what's really interesting about this is in the story, it seems like demons aren't just uninterested in learning about ethics. They're incapable of comprehending ethics. Their fundamental motivation is kill and eat humans. All of their cognitive processes are downstream of that. And don't kill people is such a fundamental part of human ethics that if your fundamental, almost axiomatic principle by which you interact with the universe is antithetical to human ethics, well, you're never going to square that circle. There's a really interesting scene. This doesn't happen in the anime. It happens in the manga after the anime ends, where Freerun is talking to a demon, and the demon is saying all these words of curiosity about Freerun. The demon is trying to start a conversation, and Freerun says, "This is not a conversation." Because when you see a face that's emitting words, it's pretty normal to assume that there is a consciousness behind it, to assume that there is a human perspective behind it. But that isn't always the case. In the old days, the obvious example of this not being the case was psychopaths. There's also, today, AIs that emulate human speech without actually being people. And in the novel Blindsight, there are aliens that, because they lack consciousness, they cannot understand human speech. In fact, even attempting to understand human speech for the aliens without consciousness, according to Peter Watts' theory of consciousness, is harmful to those aliens. In all four of these cases, Freerun's demons, AIs emulating people, psychopaths, and the aliens from Blindsight. In all four of these cases, what's going on is there is an intelligence trying to elicit certain behavior from human beings that is not ultimately a human. In the case of psychopaths and demons, these intelligences are predatory. And in the case of AI and Blindsight's aliens, these intelligences are orthogonal. They're both equally indifferent to human values. Fortunately, Freerun's demons aren't real, and the aliens from Blindsight aren't real. Psychopaths and similar conditions like narcissism are real, but we normal human beings have had all of our evolutionary history to adapt to them. And so yes, psychopaths and narcissists can cause harm, and do cause harm, but we do have defenses against them. However, AI, that's just getting more and more powerful. And as AI learns to better emulate and manipulate human beings, which is something it gets trained on whenever there's human feedback going on, well, as AI gets more intelligent and learns to be a better skinwalker, we're going to enter some very interesting times.